This is the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. And I think it's a beautiful, thoughtfully designed shoe. The heel flare is a nod to the fast R2. The word velocity on the tongue uses a 3 instead of an E. And the Puma logo itself has tiny Puma logos inside. But it's puffier and heavier than it was last year. So is this a case of form over function? It's time to lace up the Velocity 3 and take it for a run. Yo, what's going on? My name is Kofuzi and I'm a not only your runner who reviews shoes here on YouTube, and today I want to talk to you guys all about the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that Puma sent to me for the purpose of review, so I did not have to pay for these shoes. However, no one's paying me to make this video or to include their shoe in this video, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, and let's start with some specs. This is a 36mm stack height shoe with a 10mm drop, giving us 26mm of stack height in the forefoot, which is 2mm more of foam than we saw last year. But something that we do see again this year is that there is a 2 foam system going on in this shoe. The top layer here is Puma's Nitro foam, and the bottom layer is Puma's Pro foam, which is an EVA layer. It's a similar setup to what we saw last year in the Velocity Nitro 2, but this year it seems like there's more Nitro foam and less EVA foam. We even see a little peak of the Nitro foam coming through on the outsole here, where you have a little window. On the outsole, we have a completely redesigned rubber pattern. It's still pretty much full coverage, but it's been redesigned and made to look a lot more modern. Last year's outsole pattern just looked very dated and looked like a basic generic running shoe outsole with a ton of rubber on it. This year, we've still got a lot of rubber. It just seems like there's less of it, and it's just in a refreshed pattern that I find to be lighter, yet still grippy. On the upper, we have a dual layer mesh that is very breathable. The tongue is rather padded and it extends a little bit further up onto the top of the foot than it did last year. The laces have been switched out from the puffy laces to these stretchy flat laces. And then in the back of the shoe, we've got a bunch of padding and foam back in here, which is very snug and comfy, but I am gonna worry about this come summer because I feel like this is gonna be a bit of a sweat sponge. In terms of hardware though, that's inside this shoe, there isn't too much of it. There is a little bit of structure, but it's not nearly as rigid as the design of the shoe makes it look. All of these things put together, the increased stack height of the shoe plus the increased puffiness in the heel cup, add a substantial amount of weight. This year, the Velocity 3 comes in at 264 grams or 9.3 ounces, which is about a half an ounce heavier than it was last year. Now that we've got the paper specs out of the way, let's talk about what it was like to run in the shoe. And for those of you who love the Velocity Nitro 2, don't worry, it's still a workhorse daily trainer. It's firmer than a shoe that I would prefer for my daily training preferences. But for those of you who are looking for something that's a little bit firmer, that feels a little bit more connected to the ground, this is something that's gonna make you happy. For me, I find that when my foot strike hits directly underneath me or more directly underneath me than my overstride tends to usually put it, that's when I feel like I'm getting along with the shoe the best. That's when I feel like I'm finding a rhythm. And when I do find that rhythm with this shoe, even though it's a bit firm overall in terms of the way that the shoe is constructed, I feel like when my foot hits the ground and then pushes off, I'm getting a nice little amount of responsiveness back, a nice little pop that I find to be pleasant and engaging. I just wish sometimes that I was feeling that pleasant amount of give in the shoe a little bit more often or a little bit more significantly when I'm running in the shoe. And I think that this year, because they've tweaked the kind of ratio, I feel like there's more Nitro foam to EVA foam. I feel like that's what's gonna give it more of a denser feeling, at least at the easy paces that I've been spending most of my time running in this shoe. When I do pick up the pace though, however, that's where the increased amount of Nitro foam compared to EVA foam becomes more of a strength. And I feel like when I'm inserting pace changes into my runs, when I want to pick up the pace, that's where the shoe starts to really come alive a lot more and becomes that much more exciting to run in. Now, a lot of pros that I've been interviewing lately seem to be indicating kind of a retro desire to go back to non-plated options for workouts, or at least some of the earlier workouts in their training blocks as they're getting ready for their next marathon races. And I feel like the Velocity Nitro 3 is going to be a really great versatile option for that kind of running, where you're doing a lot of easy runs or maybe some easy plus running, and then throwing in some light workouts early in the training blocks in a non-plated option. I feel like because of the increased amount of nitro foam that's in this shoe, I feel like this is going to be a really great option for that, even though it does tip the scales at half an ounce heavier than last year. Now for me, I feel like that's a great way that I would be able to enjoy this shoe for kind of like medium length runs to regular length easy runs, and for some of those lighter workouts. But I'm not sure that I'd want it for very, very long runs, as I feel like the heel is very stout. It's very stable in this shoe. And for me, I find that the heel part of the shoe, even though I really enjoy the design, is kind of the bulkiest and least enjoyable part of the shoe. For me, I feel like I'm really enjoying it when I can get into a rhythm of it past kind of like the heel to midfoot transition and stay kind of in the center to the forward portion of the shoe. That's where I'm really enjoying the ratio of the nitro foam to the EVA. Overall, I was hoping for a little bit more of a transition away from the Velocity Nitro 2. I was hoping for maybe a lighter, more nimble version of the Forever Run and its wonderful dual density foams, or maybe perhaps a plateless version of the DVA Nitro 2 with its Nitro Elite foam and Nitro foam combo. But for those of you who love the Velocity Nitro 2 for what it was, a workhorse daily trainer that could absorb a lot of miles and has the materials that can withstand a large bulk of your training, I feel like the Velocity Nitro 3 is going to be a safe update that you're also really going to enjoy wearing casually, because some of the extra padding and other creature comforts in the heel of the shoe do make it really comfortable for all day wear as well. Now let's wrap up the video by getting into some pairing options if you want to build a rotation around the Velocity Nitro 3, and then we'll get into the buying guide and some alternatives that you might want to also consider. First, let's talk about pairing options. If you're using the Velocity Nitro 3 as your daily trainer, I think we're going to need a tempo or long run shoe and then a racer. So for that tempo slot, I'm going to recommend the DV8 Nitro 2. This is one of my favorite shoes that I think Puma has ever made. It's got the Nitro Elite foam on top, a nice cushy layer of it, a carbon fiber plate that you could see through the bottom, and a Nitro foam for the heel. That makes for a really nice transition. I feel like it's built as a daily trainer as far as the upper goes, but it moves like a racing shoe on the bottom. So you're getting the best of both worlds for your long runs or for those workouts where you want something with a little bit more oomph than the Velocity Nitro 3 has. And then when it comes to those biggest workouts in your races, I've really been enjoying doing hard workouts in the Fast R2. It's got a brand new version of Puma's Nitro Elite foam, an aliphatic TPU, which has a really fantastic amount of squish and bounce back. It's been really fun for hard workouts. Plus, it's got this wild carbon fiber plate design in here that makes it very snappy, and I'm always happy to have it when I'm deep into a tough workout. And those three things together are going to make for a very fast Puma lineup. Now let's talk about the buying guide and some alternatives. The Puma Velocity Nitro 3 comes in at $135, which is a price I really like, considering that most shoes have bumped up to the $140 price point for their flagship level daily trainers. But let's look at some of the other shoes that I think we might need to take a look at to see where they come in price-wise, especially relative to either $135 or $140. First, I'm going to have you take a look at one shoe that I think the Velocity Nitro 3 is directly targeting, and that's going to be the Pegasus 40. Now, this is a shoe that I didn't love because I felt like it was too firm and didn't feel very modern at all. And I recognize that those are the same things that some of you may be saying about the Velocity Nitro 3. But there's a couple of reasons why I prefer the Velocity Nitro 3 over the Peg 40. And that's because I feel like the dual density Nitro and EVA foam is something that I can get into a rhythm with, and I'm feeling softness when I am running in the Velocity Nitro 3, which is something that I never really got when I ran in the Peg 40. Plus overall, I find that the fit to be just much more accommodating and comfortable than I find in the Peg 40. The Peg 40 retails at $130, so at least you'd be saving $5 if you went with the swoosh option. Now, the other shoe that I think lines up really well against the Velocity Nitro 3 is from Adidas, and that's the Adizero SL. This is one of my favorite shoes to recommend to a lot of people over the course of the year last year. It's another shoe that has two types of foam in it, Adidas's Light Strike and then an insert of Light Strike Pro in the forefoot of the shoe. And it's another shoe that I think is intended to go up against the Pegasus 40, but when you put up these two peg killers against each other, I find that I'm kind of doing the same thing where the foam is a little bit firmer than I would like, but there are times when you can get into a rhythm with these shoes where the compression and decompression of the foam is really pleasant for those easy runs where you might need to pick up the pace just a little bit. It's also got a really comfortable upper that fits very well, so it's really nice for both running and for everyday use as well. The Adizero SL right now is retailing for $120, but the pricing over at Adidas is pretty volatile, and I've seen this shoe as low as $48. So depending on when you're looking at it, you might really be able to pick up a steal on the Adizero SL. And then I think the last shoe that we really got to take a look at is last year's Velocity Nitro 2. It's a little bit shorter of a shoe, and I feel like overall, the Velocity Nitro 3 is just much more buttoned up, and it's much more precise than the Velocity Nitro 2 was. This upper kind of felt a little bit kind of baggy to me, and it didn't feel like it had quite the level of refinement that the updated version has. Right now, the Velocity Nitro 2, it retails for full price at $120. You might be able to find it at a discount now that the Velocity Nitro 3 is out. So if you're interested in the Velocity Nitro 3, you should probably look at the Velocity Nitro 2 first, see if you can get a nice deal there. And then once you run in that one, you can then bump up to the Velocity Nitro 3 at the $135. So those are my thoughts on the Puma Velocity Nitro 3. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions, or better yet, stop by the live stream I do over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel Monday through Friday. I'd love to talk to you guys over there in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?